All right, so hello everyone, a very warm greeting to one and all. My name is Sri Gauri Krishnakumar, and I would like to welcome you all for the third webinar on microbiome in health and wellness hackathon. So, for those of you who are new to the series of hackathon webinars, this November we are organizing a hackathon on microbiome in health and wellness to provide students with a platform to showcase their innovative mindset of problem solving. In this hackathon, each student will have the opportunity to develop a mini project around the hackathon topic, form a team with at least two other students, and compete against others for mentorship, support from established companies, and long term interest from the business community. And the applications of hackathon are in the fields of obesity and precision nutrition, innovation and beauty products, and pregnancy. During the first webinar, we focused on the topics that will be covered during the one workshop on microbiome business. Here, we discussed what the hackathon is all about, what kind of opportunities are present for the students, and popular research publications that will provide ideas for students participating in the hackathon. During our second webinar, we focused on the week 2 workshop topics that will be focused on biotechnology. Here we discussed topics such as associated training resources, potential student project outcomes, technical resources that one can leverage using T-Bioinfo platform, and translating metagenomics research into an innovative product or service. In today's webinar, we will be introducing the participants to the topics that will be covered during the week 3 workshops. Here we will be covering topics on infrastructure for computational analysis, tools, methods and algorithms, machine learning, recommendation system, data visualization, and user experience. So before we begin with today's webinar, for those of you who are joining for the first time, let me also take a brief moment to introduce you to the team behind the program. We are a US-based bioinformatics company who's working with multiple academic and commercial collaborators to develop easy-to-use analytical tools, and our mission is to make bioinformatics more accessible. As part of the hackathon, students will have access to the omics logic training that has been completed by over 24,000 participants from 187 countries in over 300 workshops. And due to this fast growth, our team is working with local and regional coordinators that are helping refine local program logistics and adapting them to the needs of students and researchers around the world. And this training has been completed by participants in 6 different specialization tracks that includes oncology, infectious diseases, precision medicine, neuroscience, data science for biomedical data, and comprehensive training on omics data analysis. As a part of the hackathon, students and researchers will also have access to the omics logic resources. But how does it help advance bioinformatics teaching? Omics Logic is a portal for practical and theoretical learning of bioinformatics. It takes a combination of training modules, data analysis tools, curated project datasets, and interactive sessions with mentors to give the student a clear path up the Bloom's taxonomy pyramid. And no matter what the user's initial experience with bioinformatics is, Omics Logic is a useful tool for gaining a baseline knowledge of the theory behind bioinformatics, analysis of large data sets, and introduction to basic coding languages like R and Python, or even beginning a data analysis project. This also comes with an access to Omics Logic courses, which includes courses on bioinformatics, precision medicine, multi-omics, such as genomics, transcriptomics, metagenomics, and epigenomics, data science that includes bioinformatics using R and Python, as well as cheminformatics, and use and example projects of different fields which you could learn from and replicate for your research work. And the users will be given directions to access the T-Bioinfo platform for bioinformatic processing and analysis of data. The platform includes demo pipelines as well as data management and analysis cloud infrastructure to run bioinformatic pipelines. Different stages of analysis are performed in different sections on this multi-omics platform. So to get access to all of this, you need to first sign up on the Omics Logic Learn portal. Before that, let me walk you through a brief demo on what a completed profile on the portal looks like after you sign up. So once you sign up on the portal, these are the features that you need to update on your account. That is, a completed profile will have a profile image, full name with appropriate capitalization, link to your social media handles, a brief bio about yourself that will consist of your educational background and research interests. And the mentors can view your progress under the activity tab. And the courses you are currently completing will appear under the Courses tab. And finally, after the completion of your course, the certificates will appear under the Certificates tab. So now let us begin by signing up on the Omics Logic Learn portal. So to sign up on the portal, I am sharing the link in the chat box. So please click on the link so that you can create an account, and I can show you the various resources that are available on the portal. So once you sign up on the portal, please put a yes in the chat box so that I know we are good to proceed. So those of you who are creating an account for the first time, you can click on the option that says create an account. And here you will be asked to enter your name, email ID, password. You can also enter using any of your social media accounts. That includes Google, Facebook, Apple account, GitHub account, or even Twitter. Or for those of you who have already signed up, you can just click on the login now option that you see here. So once you sign up on the portal, please put a yes, and I can show you the various courses and example projects that are available on the portal. So, and if you have already signed up on the portal, you can put a done in the chat box so that I know you already have created an account. And if you're facing any kind of technical issues, you can share them in the chat as well, and our team will be happy to help you. Okay, great. We have 2 responses. Okay, 3 responses. So I'm just going to proceed ahead. If you're facing any queries, you can put them in the chat box. So since I already have an account, I'm just going to click on sign in option that you see here. So once you sign in, you will be able to view the various courses and example projects. So since, let's say, if you're interested to browse through the courses and example projects that are related to machine learning, so you could just enter the keyword machine learning. And there you go. You'll be able to see the various courses and example projects that are making use of the machine learning concepts. So now, how do you update the profile that I was explaining before? So to do that, click on the tab that says welcome back with your email ID. So once you click here, you will be able to see this option that says profile. Once you click on this, you'll have the option to edit all of these details. I've mentioned my educational background and research interest, and linked my LinkedIn account and my org ID. And as explained previously, under the activity tab, the mentor and the community manager will be able to track your learning progress. And under the courses tab, it will display the various courses that you're currently taking. So for instance, I have currently enrolled in effect of non-antibiotics and Rett syndrome, which is a metagenomics project, example project. And once you complete any of the projects and upload on the portal, it will be displayed here. And once you enroll for any of the programs, such as the metagenomic data analysis program, it will be displayed here. And after you start taking the courses and complete the required assignments and quizzes, the certificates will appear under the Certificates tab. So far, if the participants are having any queries related to how to sign up or navigating the portal, please put them in the chat box. I'll pause for a few minutes. Otherwise, now I'd like to pass on the stage to, thank you so much for your responses. So now I'd like to pass on the stage to Mr. Ilya Brodsky, who will be talking about the computer science topics that will be covered during the week 3 workshop of the hackathon. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sri Gauri, and welcome everyone. I will introduce some of the topics that we think have a lot of promise and potential for those who are interested to join this hackathon. So before we jump into that, I wanted to remind everyone that this is kind of an orientation or an introduction to what's actually coming and a little preview of expert talks that we have scheduled. All of this information about the hackathon, who will be speaking, when they will be speaking, what are they going to be speaking about, is available on the page for the Microbiome in Health and Wellness Hackathon. So if Sri Gauri or someone could share that link in the chat, that would be great. And after I complete this part of the presentation, also, I hope that someone will be able to give an overview of the schedule and kind of how to register and things like that. So as Sri Gauri mentioned, the hackathon for us is a little bit different than what you would typically think of a hackathon, right? Typically, when people hear the word hackathon, they think competition. Somebody wins, somebody loses. Whoever wins gets it all, right? But what we are trying to do is make this hackathon into a learning experience. And I hope that after today's presentation, it will be a lot more clear how and why maybe you might be interested in the microbiome as a technology that really brings together these very different kinds of skill sets. Computer science is the focus of today's session, but we have previously talked, I think, briefly about the microbiome as a field in biotechnology and business as an important concept to consider when you think about the innovation in the microbiome space. And this is aligned well with our approach in general, which is to provide solutions, services, and training in the field of big data analytics. And as a result of this activity, we have the platform that you just signed up on. And also, I will demonstrate a little bit of the platform that you will have if you are less familiar with bioinformatics, how you can nevertheless participate and do analysis and kind of see what the data actually tells us. So as a part of doing this work, we also interact with a network of experts from around the world, including Israel, the US, Sweden, India, and many other countries. And our goal is always to bring together experts in the field that can help us understand the trends and direction where that particular field is going. And so together with the experts for this hackathon, we are also going to be learning together with all of you about these trends, about the need in the industry, about the progress that the researchers are making, and about the way that data could be used to make that progress, accelerate that progress, and make it more reliable in terms of that is really what we see in the data, and not just hype that a lot of times, unfortunately, happens in this field as well. So why microbiome? The reason we chose to select this topic for this hackathon and in general as a topic that we feel is important is because it is a recently accelerating field where a lot of investment has yielded insights that are very interesting. But unfortunately, a lot of those insights still remain to be proven in terms of the value that they produce, even though a lot of larger companies and industry have adopted that this actually does have a lot of potential, and we have to harness this potential. Now, where has this potential primarily been so far? Primarily, there's a focus on human microbiome therapeutics, and kind of thinking about the microbiome with probiotics, prebiotics, so primarily the gut microbiome. Now, as you will hopefully discover in this whole training period before the hackathon and during the hackathon itself, microbiome is a technology, or a microbiome as a field, and metagenomics as a technology has the potential to disrupt several different domains and in unexpected ways oftentimes. So I myself don't come from a microbiology background, but just preparing for this hackathon, I've learned so much about the potential of the microbiome in clothing, in skin treatment, in aging, in balding, in so many different things. So I think it's a real exciting field. And unfortunately, when something touches so many different things, it also becomes kind of questionable as to how those specific ideas can be translated into actual products. And here we can see a chart that in 2018, there have been over 1,500 patent applications. And I think that trend is continuing to grow. Unfortunately, this chart goes only to 2019, but in 2021, I believe that this trend is continuing to grow. So there's really a lot of innovative ideas that could be patented, that could result in tremendous business as well as science breakthroughs. So what are the specific challenges in microbiome that we can contribute to, that we as a community, we as a company, you as researchers, students, faculty, other companies, maybe entrepreneurs, what can we contribute without necessarily having access to lab space and to maybe microbiologists that can modify strains of different bacteria, or design new therapeutics and maybe phages that address specific types of microbes. So I think the real benefit of microbiome as a field is that there's a lot of data sets that are publicly available. And during the hackathon, we will introduce you to a lot of these data sets that we have been curating as a team to highlight some of the opportunities that we think are very promising, and then allowing our experts to speak about the other components. When you look at these data sets, what should you consider? How can you frame your questions in such a way that they become interesting, compelling, innovative, and addressing real challenges out there? So this availability of data, I think, is really a trend that defines this field, because even surprisingly, even to me, biotechnology startups rely on public domain data sets to inform their initial ideas. And then essentially the company would validate a lot of those insights that come out of the analysis of publicly available data sets. And the same way with researchers, right? They might have ideas that they also want to validate first on public domain data sets. So there's a lot of reliance on these data sets. And the reason is because they are done by professional teams and professional labs, experts that design these experiments, and publications that then describe the results as well, right? So it's really interesting that any one of us has access to those data sets. Now, unfortunately, data sets are not easy to work with. And that's where engineering, computer science, data science really can play a major difference, because the goal of these disciplines is to really translate this raw data to insights. And in addition to just insights, those insights need to be interpretable. So someone needs to understand the mechanism of action and the biological kind of context of what is being described in this data. They need to be easily searchable, and they need to be visually compelling. And so I think those are the things that we will focus on as we think about how to make this kind of data-driven innovation more applicable and useful for actual users. And that's going to be more of the focus of what I will speak in a few more slides. Now, why the hackathon as a learning experience makes sense, why this format makes sense. A lot of times when we think about learning something new, there's no practical outcome. And the reason why there's no practical outcome is because you're trying to earn a certificate, or maybe say, I have completed, some course and now I have some skills, but who knows if those skills are real? Most of the time, and I think, I've done that myself as well, we go on some online learning platform and we watch some video, we read some text, and then we get a certificate. I mean, how is that necessarily learning? I don't think that there's a lot of practical outcomes from simply doing that. What does make that much more practical and I think more valuable is when you come out with a real project. And that could be a research project, but in this case, you can really come out with a practical solution. And that solution really shows that you have skills you know how to apply those skills, and you have done the research from the technology to the domain that you're in to actual business value that you are producing. So that's the goal of this hackathon. It's a learning experience because it will allow you to show your creativity, your ability to overcome challenges and solve problems. But also, most importantly, I think it's a way to connect with others that can contribute to your ideas, refine them. There's a saying called iron sharpens iron. And I think in this case, we hope to bring together teams that have the business acumen and background, that have the data science skills and intuition, and also people that have the biotechnology and the biology and the kind of health and wellness thinking, so that these are real proposals of solutions that are needed. Now, how do we take these 3 points, innovate, solve, and connect, and start talking about the specific challenges and opportunities with microbiome? So I think that there's a lot of funding that continues to be poured into the microbiome space. Now, as I mentioned already, a lot of that funding goes towards therapeutics and things like pro and prebiotics and things like that. So what we are going to focus on, that kind of funding is large in amounts, but you can see that the number of these investments, it remains to be pretty low. And that's because it's a lot of money for only a few products. Now, if you are familiar with, even the stock market or the economy in general, we know that actually small and medium-sized businesses are the ones that are most active and most innovative, and they are able to, a lot of them fail, but they are able to produce real value and innovation. And so I think what we are going to focus on is preclinical health and wellness type applications, because we think that there's a lot of opportunities to kind of take this high level science and make it practical in the sense that it is data driven and proven, but nevertheless addresses the more commonplace issues that we face. So just a few examples. Silver has been known to resist, to have antimicrobial properties. So there's actually a lot of metals and different types of materials that have antimicrobial properties. Now, this sounds like a great idea to innovate and understand how can antimicrobial type material, maybe suppress odor or have some other good properties. But we need to remember that our skin also has a microbiome, right? And that microbiome has a substantial effect on the way our skin feels, on the way that our skin protects against potentially pathogenic microbes, and also how our skin microbiome can cause things like rashes and all kinds of other kind of conditions that might be very unpleasant. So when we think of, how this microbial ecosystem and an understanding of this microbial ecosystem on our body can really change how we will address these kinds of innovations that are actually today available on, places like Amazon. You can go and you can find a lot of silver infused fabric and different kind of clothing, but does it affect the skin microbiome or does it not, right? There's a lot of questions about that. And so we will have an opportunity to address some of those questions and kind of think about, well, what is the alternative, or how can, or for who maybe, right, this kind of product innovation can be useful. Another example that I really like is that, you probably have heard, if you're in the Western part of the world, about many different metagenomic based or microbiome based kind of tests that can help you pick a right diet, that can help you buy pro and prebiotics that are best for you and things like that. But as you have more and more of these kinds of tests, and they say that, well, we do metatranscriptomic, or we do metagenomic, or we do just amplicon sequencing, this is an opportunity to start thinking about, well, where is the opportunity for one of these companies to do things differently, innovate, and capture the market? Because they're all struggling to grow beyond a certain number of users. And so those business problems are related to also how the public perceives the actual benefits of microbiome sequencing, or understanding your microbiome, or how to maybe link it to specific phenotypes if there is a direct link. So those are some of the questions that we can really focus on. And I think the important part here, as we think about solving these challenges, is being able to connect to experts that can guide us, provide us with clarity, and help us eliminate kind of questions that are already explored and will not lead to anything specific. And the ultimate goal, as I mentioned, is to actually build something. And the final product that you will have is something that you will be able to take with you for a much longer time, that will continue to be relevant beyond a certificate that you can simply add to your resume. And I think it's really an opportunity to develop something that you have validation, you have feedback from experts that are in the industry, that have tried to innovate in the space, that do research in the space, right? And really know how to provide something that is very valuable. And that is something that you can directly take and continue working on it, even potentially raise money for it, because there's a lot of investment in the space. You can continue doing research on that topic, and you can also continue to build out products based on your understanding of what challenges exist with the data. So again, we have these three topics that we will cover in the microbiome: obesity, precision nutrition for the gut microbiome, skin aging and beauty for the skin microbiome, and then pregnancy and femtech for vaginal microbiome. Now, there's a lot of overlap. You will find, for example, that in the femtech world, women are treating different, microbiome related conditions with pre and probiotics that are taken orally. So they are gut microbiome based. And you will also find that some gut microbiome changes can affect things like balding and dandruff, and that's also skin related, but also gut related. So really, this microbiome related space, there's a lot of overlap between these different areas. But in each one of these areas, there are also specific things to consider as we think about, what is needed, who is it needed for, and what is innovative and different about it. Obesity and precision nutrition is, I think, the most kind of widely known topic, where we have one primary challenge. And again, you will hear from experts on this as well, but I just want to give you kind of a preview of what that will cover. So one important consideration here is that anyone can diet, right? I mean, if you stop eating and I stop eating, we're going to lose a lot of weight right away. The problem isn't that. The problem is sustaining that weight loss over time and addressing specific challenges to different individuals at different ages and conditions of their body that will really help them to lose weight in the long term and feel good about it at the same time. So that will be something that we will talk about in that session. As I mentioned, skin aging and beauty is a huge industry. Traditionally, of course, more women are focused on that, but today even men are aware of their looks and kind of how their skin and comfort of their skin is related. And that's why you see, silver line clothing. And that's why you see all kinds of, questions about whether this kind of lotion or that kind of lotion is appropriate for what type of skin. So I think a really interesting topic. With existing products on the market already that are claiming, that this works and how it works exactly. So I think a very interesting topic there as well. Finally, pregnancy and femtech. All of us, men, women, we all have a link to, pregnancy and to, childbirth. So I think fertility, is a big business, but also there's a lot of other kind of things that we might not necessarily, hear about or understand. And I think that we recently spoke to an expert who is actually working on a company in that field, and she was telling us about how, women a lot of times don't know how the microbiome factors in to these decisions that they have to make. And, a lot of clinicians don't know. And really, healthcare is starting to become a lot more focused on prevention rather than treatment. And I think this is a huge opportunity because the microbiome, just by its property, is something that can establish a certain condition in its environment. And I think that this is a very specific kind of a challenge where those kinds of preventive and long-term benefits are extremely important for the outcomes. All right, so let's briefly kind of talk about the major focus of today. And the major focus of today is, what are the specific skills that you have to know, or what are these data science, computer science, and engineering type solutions that we think are most promising in this field. So, as you know, one of the major kind of ways that we can study the microbiome is through sequencing. And the reason for that is because culturing bacteria, right? We could culture bacteria, but unfortunately, only like 1% of all bacteria could be cultured in the lab. And when it is cultured in the lab, it is now in isolation. And because it's in isolation, we don't understand how those microbes actually interact with the other microbes in the microbiome, because microbiome is like a community that works together. And so sequencing allows us to actually understand what kinds of bacteria we have, and potentially what kinds of enzymatic or active compounds they produce. And that's a very important kind of a technology that really, for the first time ever, allows us to see what is happening in the real time. And so, what's important to understand? Well, what's important to understand for some of these techniques is that they work in different ways. They have different methods of sample preparation, and we'll talk about that as well, because really, how do you sample skin microbiome? For example, we can have an oily skin, and then you can have a swipe and understand what's in the swipe. But what if you have dandruff? I mean, how do you understand the microbial community of a dry skin, right? So there are ways to do this. There are techniques to do this. We'll talk about that during the hackathon preparation as well. And, when you sequence, now the challenge becomes, well, a lot of this data that is prepared in a certain way, after it is sequenced, it has very specific properties. And the property really is that you have different approaches to process that data, preparing it for analysis. And the preparation of the data for analysis is critical for your analysis to be accurate and for it to be clear. And beyond that, as I mentioned, we have different methods of data generation that perhaps result in a challenge of multi-omics integration, because we're talking about, the microbiome and maybe the metabolome, or maybe even the host gene expression, right? So there's a lot to think about as we approach this kind of data. Now, there are some standard tools in the field, and it's important to understand what these tools are. I mean, a very kind of popular package of tools called KIME or CHIME is a collection of tools designed for 16S ribosomal RNA. And there are other things that we should think about, because really, just beyond these standard tools that we have to understand, because they address very specific noise issues and very specific reproducibility and accuracy issues, we also need to think about, well, what other methods are out there? For example, there's 16S ribosomal RNA, hypervariable region amplicon. There's also just the full 16S ribosomal RNA amplicon. There's full metagenomics, where we try to assemble individual genomes. There's metatranscriptome, transcriptomics, where we try to understand what are the genes that are being produced by these bacteria, by these organisms. There's metabolomics, which looks at active compounds. They're not proteins, but they're metabolites, so smaller kind of active compounds that are being generated and produced. And there are methods to do that, like LCMS and MSMS. There's gene expression studies. Again, how does our body, the host, respond to the changes in the microbiome? For example, if we talk about inflammation, a major topic in the leaky gut, or maybe even skin rashes, right? How do we connect the changes in the microbiome or the expression changes, not the composition changes, but expression changes, to how our body reacts? And even genomics, what kind of genomic or genetic properties kind of tend to fall in a specific type of a microbiome. In addition to that, there are three additional things that I think are very important from a computer science kind of perspective. One of them is machine learning. So why machine learning? Well, the reason why machine learning is such a big deal is because these data sets, as they grow, and when they grow, that means we have better representation of different individual types. We also need more complex and kind of sensitive methods to find and extract patterns. An important part here is also visualization, right? And visualization, I think, is not just having a plot. Today, visualization is much more connected to the data because it is interactive, and it allows us to quickly search and find patterns that we know how to interpret. So a lot of it is about connecting different sources of data together. And then finally, cloud computing. So why cloud computing? Well, one of the main reasons cloud computing is such a big deal in this case is because once you produce something, you would like it to be usable by many different individuals on demand without having to put upfront investment into hardware that is necessary for these kinds of applications to operate. So environments on the cloud, a lot of which are provided free of cost initially, are going to be very useful for prototyping and designing something that works today on a small population and then eventually can be used by larger and larger users without that upfront investment. But of course, the cloud technology is nothing more than simply having that accessible hardware elsewhere. And so understanding the process of accessing different compute resources, different database type resources, and even different kinds of data storage resources are going to be very important to be able to produce something that is actually valuable. A good example of that is an understanding of how recommendation systems are working today and what kind of innovation could be added to them when we think about the information that the microbiome can provide for things like activity tracking, precision nutrition, and things like that. And a good example here is this. This is an example from another hackathon that a team of students actually made, where they made a food recommendation system that relies on machine learning that asks questions about your preferences, your diet choices, and things like that, and recommends similar foods through this recommendation system. So what you will see is that a lot of the approaches are to find a similar, comparable, or alternative, right? So for example, let's think about users that, let's say, have different kinds of microbial communities in their gut. Well, in an ideal world for a machine learning recommendation system, what you can say is, once I identify a group of similar individuals, I can say, well, this is what I know about this group, and this person is new. How could I recommend to them something that works for the rest? But if you think about the microbiome, that becomes kind of challenging, because even describing what groups are, identifying how to match those groups, and then understanding what do those groups actually mean, are all areas where innovation is critically needed. So here's a brief example of, how this recommendation system actually works. You can see that, you kind of type in. So again, you can start thinking about, how this idea could be further developed into something that incorporates the microbiome, and kind of helps us think about a user using something like this, again, maybe once or maybe continuously, using it to actually get some ideas about, what they might find useful. So again, I am not necessarily the expert in all of these things, but I do want to share how, a lot of these things are, ideas that I think everyone will learn from by listening to experts in the field. And I am pleased to know that there's a whole panel of experts that are going to be presenting from, technology backgrounds like sequencing, from industry innovation perspective, like even investors that have invested in this field and can tell you what has worked, what hasn't worked, and why. Experts in computer science and machine learning that have built such recommendation systems, and also researchers that continue to identify insights that maybe are sitting on the shelf and did not find an opportunity to be translated into a real product. So a lot of interesting experts that we can learn from during this hackathon. Now, primarily, this hackathon is for our partner program. So as you probably know, Pine Biotech is working with academic partners around the world, in Africa, in the US, in India. And we develop these relationships with universities because universities are kind of the gatekeepers for students to be introduced to these kinds of topics. And so we would like them to have a clear understanding of how these ideas that they learn about could also be translated further. And so this specific opportunity is for the partner university program, but we are also looking for additional partners. So if you are here today and you are a faculty and you teach students in some way, we would love to talk to you after this webinar to identify a way for us to work together. I think we can bring a lot of value to this kind of bioinformatics training with outcomes, with practical outcomes like this hackathon. And we're also looking for your ideas and your contribution to help shape programs like these as we continue to grow this partnership program. Now, as already mentioned, this is not something that we just recently started. I mean, we have been doing this for several years, and we have over 24,000 participants on our portal across 162 countries, many different universities that we have worked with. And I hope that, through this hackathon and through this partnership program, we would be able to connect as well and continue to grow this industry together. So if anyone would like to speak about that, I welcome you to reach out to me personally, especially if you are in the US, but also the Director of Business Development, Mohit Mazumdar. You can email us on these email addresses. That's probably the best way. But also we welcome, you to connect with us on LinkedIn. Of course, find us on social media, and would love to talk to you more about all of this. So with that, I would love to pass this on to talk a little bit more about how to register and secure your participation in this hackathon.
Thank you so much, sir.
Or if you have any questions, yes, sorry, I forgot. If you have any questions, I'm also, here to answer any questions that you might have about, any of the topics that I've talked about.
All right, so if you have any queries, please put them in the chat. We'll pause for a few minutes. All right, to start with the hackathon registration details, I would like to pass on the stage now to Ms. Sparsh Dar, Marketing Manager at Pine Biotech. So over to you, Sparsh. Thank you so much, Sri Gauri. So let me find ways to share my screen. Just a moment. So, Sri Gauri, could you please confirm me if you can see my screen?
Yes, Persh, it is visible.
Perfect. So hello all, my name is Parshner and I am the marketing manager here at Pine Biotech. So I'll be quickly walk you through the registration part and the resources which you'll have access to when you enroll for this hackathon, and then some important dates which you all should know before joining the hackathon, and about the workshops also. So, moving next, talking about talking about the access to different resources which one would have access to after the enrollment into the hackathon is, number one is they will have access to the TBioInfo server, the platform through which one can analyze, interpret uh, their data sets. Fine. Then they will have cloud infrastructure and custom dashboards for customized visualization, statistical analysis, or statistical interpretation of the data sets on which they are working. Second is they will have a premium license to Omics Logic coursework for basic to advanced training, where one could find courseworks on multiple topics, for example, genomics, for example, transcriptomics, for example, metagenomics, bioinformatics, or computational biology, or if one is interested in data science or R and Python languages, etc. So one can get started from basics to advanced learning in some different specialization tracks also. Then next, one would have the access to the practical example projects, data sets, case studies, so related to the microbiome based clinical research studies. So these are some of the example research projects which we have highlighted right now. One is on role of high fat diet on obesity, HFD versus chow fed mice. Second is effects of dietary fiber intake on gut microbiome. Third is gut microbiome dysbiosis effect on non-antibiotics and Rett syndrome. So these are some of the like example research projects on which our team have worked on, and it's being published on our Omics Logic Learn portal. And you can go through and learn more about the different applications on which our work hackathon is revolving around, about obesity, precision nutrition, innovation and beauty products, and then pregnancy. Now, moving further, our hackathon is going to commence from November 1 and it will get end on November 28th. So the main event is starting from November 23rd till November 28th. Before the main event, we are organizing a 3-week workshop, and these workshops are led by expert industry and academic these expert industry and academic sessions. So the first week is devoted towards the microbiome business, where we'll be covering some of the topics as mentioned: microbiome health and wellness, monitoring supplements in wellness, technologies, omics and microbiome sequencing, B2B bioinformatics for health and wellness, B2C recommendation system. So the first week would be devoted towards the microbiome business. Then the second week workshop will be devoted towards the applying biotechnology, where we'll be discussing about gut microbiome, including health and diet, skin microbiome, beauty, comfort and aging, vaginal microbiome, pregnancy and femtech. Then the third week workshop would be devoted towards the applying computer science, where we'll be discussing about the infrastructure for computational analysis, tools, methods, and algorithms, machine learning recommendation system, data visualization, and user experience. So in all these workshops, we will be including access to the live expert sessions, one-on-one mentors, and training sessions for developing applications based on biotechnology innovation through research that would eventually help you out in like creating a further MVP or creating an inventor's pitch for the hackathon.
Now, moving further, as we discussed that the main event is from November 23rd till November 28th. There would be certification and recognition for those who will be selected. And then there will be cash pricing, and also there are some of the investors which we have invited for our hackathon. So there could be funding opportunities also for the teams which have been enrolled as a participant, and they'll further move by creating the MVP, etc. Now, who will speak who will speak in our hackathon and who will be the judges? So we'll have different judges in our hackathon. One is Raya Khanin. She's the co-founder of Life Norm. Then we have Dr. Shibi Kannan, founder and CEO of Oncogenomics. Then Liliana, she is a investor, and she's from Life Sciences Group and Band of Angels. Then we have Kumar Sankaran, founder and CEO of Rich Bio. Then we have Gio Gipoliano. He's from University of Chicago. Philippa Godoy, she's from University of Puerto Rico. Then Raja Verman Kittu from Prema's Life Sciences, and then Dr. Sonali Khandra from Ekimind. So we have expert from commercial industry as well as academic expert for the hackathon, for judging as well as for speaking and providing you with expert-led training sessions. Now, these are some important dates which one should remember. So the registrations will get closed this week, like upcoming week, October 31, Monday. And then hackathon training program will start from November 1 till November 22. And the hackathon main event would be like from November 23rd until November 28th. So this was briefly about the registrations, the resources one would have access to, and the important days which you all need to remember. So these are the details. If anyone is having any queries regarding hackathon and like the registration part, etc., so they can inquire on marketing@omixlogic.com, and the number right now, like flashing on the screen, that is 9876134120. It is active on WhatsApp also, and you can ping me on WhatsApp also. So this was about the registration. Now, I'll just quickly show you. Shrigori, could you please confirm if my screen is still visible?
Yes, we are seeing your presentation at the moment.
Okay, I'll just stop my screen and again share it. Okay. Now, can you see the page, Shrigori?
Yes, we can see the page.
Perfect. So last thing which I would like to discuss is about the registration cost for the hackathon. So we have divided the registration cost into 3 different categories. If an individual student is interested to be a part of the hackathon, so the registration cost for that individual student is $100 USD. For a group of students, of like in a group, it means 4 to 5 minimum students should be there. The registration cost is $300, and those with whom we have collaborated, our partner universities, the registration cost is 100 for again 4 to 5 members per team. So as you'll scroll down, you will see 3 different buttons. So if an individual student who is interested to enroll for the hackathon can simply click on this button, and he or she will be redirected to the payment page, and you can simply like add your details over here and proceed with the payment checkout. So this is the same process which you will follow for a group of students, and then for the partner university payment checkout also. So this was briefly about the hackathon registration, the resources, and the 3-week workshop which we'll have starting from November 1 and ending on November 22. So if anyone is having any queries related to the registration part or resources, please feel free to ping in the chat box, and I'll be there to help and guide you. Thank you. Over to you, Shrigori.
Thank you so much, Sparsh. So does anyone have any queries? We will pause for a few minutes so that the participants, if you're having any doubts about the registration details, about the workshop schedules, you can put them in the chat. If you have already registered for the hackathon, you could also share that in the chat as well. We have a query that is, please, can I get the PowerPoint?
Which particular PowerPoint? The PowerPoint which Ilya was describing. So we'll be sharing the session recording. So I guess it's Genomic Hub. I don't know the name of the person, but we'll be sharing the session recording with you by tomorrow. So you can go through once again the recorded version of this session. Yes.
Thank you so much, Sparsh. And we also have few reach out in the chat box for collaboration. So apart from that, we'll be reaching out to you. Apart from that, does anyone have any queries? Otherwise, we are good to end today's meeting. Stephen has raised his hand. So yes, Stephen, you can unmute yourself and ask as well. It looks like we are not able to hear you. It is still showing mute. So if you could please unmute yourself, then we'll be able to answer your query. Otherwise, you can share it in the chat box as well, and I can take up your query. It looks like, let me see. Okay, could you please give access to Stephen to unmute? It looks like. Yes, Stephen can try.
It is now. It's now successful. My question was, if someone is a single student and went along to prepare the proposal for the competition, that chances of winning or working in groups increases the chances for winning.
The question is, what happens if you win? Is that the question?
The question was,
yeah, go ahead.
Registering as a single student, and you go on to apply for the competition as still a single student. Does it reduce the chances for winning if you applied as a single student, or it's same competition as well as competing with people with groups?
Yes, it is, but we do recommend finding a partner, and what we can do is we can probably help match you with some additional students to work together with. Now, if you don't want to and you want to do the whole thing on your own, you will just have these three different aspects to address in your final proposal, which is the business aspect, the computer science aspect, and the biotechnology aspect. And, this is a learning process. So, we will have people speaking about all of these aspects, helping you. The process is that you first kind of learn about everything. You find a data set. We'll provide you with some curated data sets, or you can find some on your own. And then after your initial proposal, if it is of good quality, we will actually match you with a mentor to provide you with additional feedback on your project. So yes, you can participate individually. We can help match you with others, and it is going to be a learning process. So hopefully you will gain from those experts to refine your project before the final submission.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have another query that is, will the program be practical as well? Is it hands-on training? That is the query. So Sparsh, you could just explain that.
Yes, so the program would be both conceptual as well as there would be theoretical concept that we'll be covering. And for that, we'll be using T-bioinfo server. So there are different pipelines which we'll be teaching you, and we'll be providing you the access so that you can run those pipelines related to data to and kind to pipelines. So it would be both conceptual as well as theoretical. So I hope it answered your question.
Now, for those of you that are interested in partnership, I see several questions about that. Yes, we are welcoming partnership opportunities. We're looking for partners. And so if you can email me, Ilya@pine.bio, or Mohit Mazumdar, mohit@pine.bio, and we will be following up with you in the next few days to schedule a meeting, discuss what exactly you have in mind, also explain how our partnership program works with universities. So yes, please email, and thank you, Sparsh, for sharing our email addresses.
Thank you so much. So does anyone have any queries? All right, Genomics says an email has been sent, so kindly check. All right, we'll be getting back to you. Thank you so much. So does anyone have any queries related to Hackathon? Otherwise, we are good to end today's meeting. All right, thank you so much for your patience. And we would like to see you all for the workshop as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.